Okay, guys, welcome to part two of the fundamental foundation for freedom series. So today, the first one we went over was abuse. The most important thing, you have to start getting that in your head, what that means, what it is, and how pervasive it is. Second step that we got to take is in our healing journey. This is the step-by-step process to heal. Is we have to recognize and accept. Okay, so that's what we're going to be going over on this video, is recognizing and acceptance and what that means. Well, what we should need to start with first is to recognize and accept. Again, they programmed us in a contained box in our minds, programmed in a set of parameters. They have us operate in 24 hours, 7 days a week, and that is what was imbued in you upon birth, instilled and enforced throughout your whole upbringing all the way to 18 years old, and then you went to work, and it's never ended. So you've always been in this box right here, because everything outside of this box is called no access. They have no access signs. You're not allowed. Do not trespass. You're considered a rebel, an outlaw, an outlier when you think outside this box. And now they, through the power of the psychiatric industry and that whole sham, they have set it up for anyone who thinks outside this box and acts accordingly has a mental disorder. Okay? So you have to understand that. You have to understand what abuse is. Now we're going to start at the very beginning of recognition and acceptance. And before you can go any further, you have to choose what you think a human is. Okay? Do you think, now this is what they've been teaching us since we've known for generations and generations, all of history is written by winners. To me, all of history is complete 100% scripted, narrated, false, twisted, manipulated illusion. 100%. So, you can't sit there and go, well, 200 years ago, this is how you have no fucking clue other than the history that they feed you. You have no clue. I don't care how much research you do. All this stuff, anything that's allowed out is given to you. Okay? So what we've been taught for generations upon generations from our government, right? From our science, from our religion, all this bullshit, is that we are conscious apex predators that evolved from an ape or a tadpole due to a big bang in the universe with the evolved ability to communicate through speech. Okay? Now, you have to either think this, and this is where you come from, and you think that we need all of these parameters and these laws and these regulations and these governments and these authority figures and everything else in order to, otherwise we'd be at each other's throats because we're apex predators, right? We'd be at each other's throats, killing each other just to get, take the other guy's wife and his new car and steal his house. Why would you have to work for anything? Why would you have to do any of that? If we're apex predators, it comes down to that, right? Or we're soul occupied, meaning there's a soul driving this consciousness. It's not just consciousness just sprang out of nowhere and all of a sudden the consciousness just evolved. No, it's always been there due to being soul occupied, empathetic, okay, electromagnetic, extremely advanced biological beings created by something, not just poof. The universe went poof, and all of a sudden, we were hairy creatures, swinging around in trees, and then over trillions of years, we just fucking said, oh, I'm tired of being a hairy creature swinging around trees, there's got to be a better way. And so somehow we developed a fucking standing straight body with, the ability to think and communicate and, put clothes on and realize we're naked and all this stupid shit. So we're soul occupied that is connected and has instant communication with all living things. Okay? Common sense is right over here all the way. Critical thinking is all over here all the way. This is religion. In order to believe any of this, you have to swallow the pill that they gave you called science. You have to swallow the pill that government gives you. Now remember, government comes from the word Gubermente, the Latin word gubermente. Guber means to control, mente means the mind. That's where they tell you everything, guys. They tell you what's going on. You just have to accept. You have to accept, but to accept, you have to get out of this box. You have to be willing and be brave and be a rebel and be considered that you have mental disorders and be considered crazy to get to think outside of this box that they gave us. So they say that consciousness just evolved, sprang up out of nowhere, just poof, somewhere it came from. Just like, the whole earth and everything on it, just poof. The Big Bang, just, well, I mean, that's a religion, guys. That takes faith. That takes complete belief. And if you guys remember, on this board here is called the slippery slope to slavery. The very first two things that are required to be in slavery, on the slippery slope of slavery, at the very top of that slide, is faith and belief. Okay? So to just think that, just take some scientist's word that he knows what happens billions of years ago, and that things just went poof, and then all of a sudden magically all this stuff appeared, is like believing in some stupid ass religion. It's even worse, because we were created by our biological being is so physically advanced. All the supercomputers in the world can't equal a human brain. They can't even reproduce how unbelievably far in technology the human skin is. They can't reproduce any part of the organ, nothing, absolutely nothing. They can't even come close with all their so-called technology and everything. Everything they do is trying to recreate this highly advanced thing. So were created, who knows by what. It definitely wasn't a loving God, because a loving God wouldn't allow billions and billions to suffer every day on this earth and tell them it's their fault that they were born into it and caused all these problems from a baby. So an apex predator, again, that means that, again, that gives you freedom to just pillage and plunder and kill and slaughter and anything for instant gratification, because you're here now, but when you die, there's nothing after you die. So, you might as well take advantage and do what you can do now and enjoy it and do every little thing you can. Due to Big Bang, with the evolved ability to communicate through speech. As I go through this whole thing, we'll be establishing that speech was, again, another structure of enslavement that put us in this box, that keeps us in this box. Because it's obvious that we are able to communicate. Trees can communicate through their roots and through all kinds of different ways. Animals communicate just by looks and smells and sounds, and everything communicates with itself. Nature communicates with itself. We're part of nature in that way. With the biological being, we are connected to nature in that way. We're occupied by a soul. There is a soul. Each one of us has a soul. If that soul is a one unit outside of us, and it's a one unit, and we are the essence of all that is, that may be. I don't know. But, to say that we're just, consciousness sprang out of nothing or evolved slowly over billions of years is about the biggest load of horse shit, and just skipping past the critical thinking part of how we got here right off the bat. Empathetic, again, empathetic. If you're fine with slaughtering things and you think it's okay to murder tens, hundreds of billions of land animals a year for our taste buds and the lie called nutrition, then why would you have a problem with if you're not an empathic and you're an apex predator, why would you have a problem with someone killing your dog? Why would you have a problem if somebody came over and you saw them come over and slaughter your neighbor's dog? Why would that even bother you? Where do your morals and your ethics come from? My morals and ethics come from school and my parents and my religion. No, they don't. They're imbued into you. You innately know what's right and wrong. You have been programmed to think that the only things you know are those things that have been taught to you. But that's a complete lie. Electromagnetic beings, we all give off these frequencies. We're magnetically attracted to everything and to this earth through accords. Gravity is a theory. Again, gravity's all bullshit. extremely advanced biological beings connected and has, okay. So if you live over here, that's the only way that they can get you to follow all their laws, rules, and fall under tyranny and government and control and authority and place you into these slavery systems where they assign you a number so that way they can tax ID you and follow you your whole life and track you. And that is called slavery, guys. So if you're going to be over here, this is the next step after realizing what abuse is. And then everything I just said right there, all this is abuse. So unless you want to live in the wild, wild west of abuse, you have to accept these things over here. And it's the recognition and acceptance of these things, like we went over in the abuse video, of the fact that, it's not that we are innately bad. It's that we are driven through the programmings, through the toxic social and cultural environments and the hierarchies of power and all of these types of things that have been set up and we are birthed into, that we have been set up to be torn away from what it means to be human. They've had to literally program us all the way to 18 years old that this is what it means to be human. And then, of course, some of these guys are, take a little from here and take a little from here, take a little from here and take a little from here and just skew it to make things fit and explain everything. This is all lies. This is 100% lies and bullshit. This is truth, fact, and reality. This is the way it is. And if you can't get this far in your recognition and acceptance, you are not going to heal. But you're going to heal enough to build up, again, because at birth, what they did by bringing us into these abusive, toxic systems, through the trauma and abuse, what happens is our brains are naturally made with a survival mechanism called, fight or flight. Well, when you're a baby and you're born into these environments, these two giants that have complete control over you, and the only way you can communicate with them is through your looks and through your noises you make, and they are refusing to pick up because they've been told their whole lives and imbued with the program that they are in charge, that you have to listen to them, that they have to teach you because you're retarded, that you got to listen, that your ability to comply and get along in this world and fit into the social systems is their responsibility to ensure that you do that. So you got to understand the whole construct that you were born into, okay? This is all recognizing and accepting. And if you're just blowing it off and going, well, it's just the way it is, it's just the way it is, you're justifying. If you're saying everybody's got to do it, you're excusing. If you're refusing to acknowledge any of this, then you're just refusing to accept things for what they are. You're afraid. See what happens when they put us in this state of mind, and it kicked the soul in the back seat because over a period of time, the brain creates an ego, which is a proxy that stands in for the soul, because the soul is in the back seat now. It's scared to death. It can't do anything. It knows it's supposed to be living in safety, love, compassion, empathy, interconnectedness with all things, and just acceptance, a safe space. But instead of getting that, we're getting, all this abuse and trauma from our parents, from our outside surroundings, all the toxins, the heavy metals that are put into us, the force feeding of toxic foods, the force feeding of toxic entertainment and things in our ears and our eyes. It's all toxic, guys, to our biological systems. It all breaks down our cells. It all is against the order of things, the natural order of things. And it's all poison to the body, soul, and mind. So what happens is the soul gets kicked to the back seat, so long after the baby goes through this of having to comply, right? Separating from human contact when the mom and dad put it in a separate room at night, separating from human contact and being placed in a bouncy seat in front of a TV with fucking all this crazy noises and sounds and movements and lights and frequencies coming out of a TV screen, right? So everything that is abuse, as we went over in the last video. It's all abuse, and you have to recognize and accept these things as simple as this, the foundational things. If you can't accept these foundational things, you're not going to get anywhere with your healing. Again, what's going to happen is because your ego, your soul's been in the backseat your whole life, and you've been running off ego, off survival, off of fitting in. The survival mode is fitting in, doing things to fit in. You eat poisonous foods because that's what everybody else does. Your parents congratulated you when you did it when you were a baby. You learn to ingest poisons, and then your body adjusted to it. You learned that you liked it, and then you were lied to and told it was good for you. So you've completely, they bamboozled you, and then you completely did a bamboozlement on yourself and fooled yourself and mind fucked yourself into thinking that these things were good for you. When they're not, they're poisonous to the body. It's proven over and over and over again. It's very simple, guys. So you have to accept these things, right? You just have to. It's fundamental. It's absolutely fundamental, because if you think you're like, well, I believe whatever I want. I have my own beliefs. And you're just going to mix these two sides of what being a human is and mix them up and mash them and say, well, I think this happened, but that's true too. And it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And yeah, everybody's got their own truth, and I have my own opinion, and you just got to accept me for the little snowflake I am. What is going to happen is you are going to heal. You probably get into a bunch of healing modalities. There's hundreds and thousands of them out there, different healing modalities. You'll bamboozle yourself to think those are going to work. And then your body will get better. You'll get physically better. You'll be mentally more fit, because you'll get rid of the cognitive dissonance, because you'll just keep on doubling down and justifying everything with, and the two things that people justify everything with to stay in this matrix system of enslavement is the fact that everybody does it, and it's just the way it is. And, that's a dog-eat-dog survival mentality, guys. That is a non-critical thinking. That is a running off of programs. That is living on this side of the board, thinking you're an apex predator, you need to be controlled. The guy next to you needs all these laws and rules and authority figures, because that's the only way this society is held together, and we're able to have all the nice little distractions and material possessions and be able to be the consummate consumers and gluttons that we are, that they want us to be. Again, all to keep us over here, all to keep us out of here. What else do I want to touch on here? So you're going to have this as your foundation, because then you start to see, between this video and the last video on abuse, you see that all of these systems of control are all constructs. They're all made on purpose. They're all made not for your health and safety and well-being, but to make you a product, to turn you into a product that generates money and energy for the bigger systems at play. They take the thing you have to accept is the fact that these things, these constructs, have taken the power and the innate wholeness from the individual and sacrifices the individual for the group. And that is completely wrong. We need to get rid of all groups, all labels, all of that crap, and put the power back into each individual. And then we take personal responsibility, and we heal, and we go from there. But until these things are recognized and accepted, you're never going to get to the next step. You're never going to be able to progress. You're going to literally, what's going to happen is you're going to, because not only does the brain create an ego, but a lot of people who have had severe abuse, have alter egos. I've been documenting my healing for the past couple of years. A year ago, when I first figured all this out with the alter egos and how the ego is working and the soul works, I realized I had hundreds, if not 1,000 alter egos. It was like you could put them in a books and flip the pages, and that was all my alter egos. And those are the modes of survival, fitting in like a chameleon to all these situations in your environment. That's the only way the brain can handle these environments that we live in, these social constructs that we live in, because they're so abusive and traumatic and non-conducive to human life. It's not the way we were meant to live. It's not the way that we're supposed to live. It's the reason why we are diseased. It's the reason why we're confused. It's the reason why we die at an early age. It's the reason why we're in so much pain. It's the reason why we do things and we don't know why. It's the reason why we hit all these dopamine hits and continue to consume toxins and call that enjoyment, and that we deserve it on our days off of work when we're not slaving away, giving, a third of our money to the government to go kill brown people all over the world. So, you got to recognize and accept these fundamental things before you can move on to the next step, because the next step is reclaiming your authority. And if you think that this is okay, and that because we're all apex predators, and that we need these systems of control and governance and authority figures to constantly put us in line and make sure that we're thinking right, and make sure we're behaving properly, and make sure we're working, and make sure we're paying our taxes, and make sure all of these things, right? If you think that's okay, then you can't even go to the second step, which is reclaiming your authority, because one of two things: you're either gave that authority up freely, or you're not even recognizing that you gave your authority away, and you just think that you had no authority to begin with, and that there just meets rules and law. Otherwise, you're going to go off the handle and start killing people and raping things and all of that crazy shit. Anything else to touch on for recognize and accept? I'm keeping these very simple. I mean, I could go on for a whole day about recognizing and accepting all the fucking different facets of the enslavement of our reality, but you just got to get these fundamentals thing down. And if you can get down and recognize and accept what being a human is, then you'll be able to start differentiating between your actions. Are my actions conducive to having an eternal soul that occupies an eternal soul that's empathetic, that is occupying this electromagnetic, extremely advanced biological being that is connected and has instant communication with all things? Or am I an apex predator that just there's no purpose for me being here, and I just might as well get my nut off and take all the goodies while I can, because once I'm dead, baby, and I'm just going to enjoy the ride. It's one way or the other. You can't mix and mash these two boards. They're completely, they don't go together. Nothing over here goes with over here, and nothing over here goes with over here. They're completely separate things. And they've proven that humanity is actually living 95% of their lives in unconsciousness. We're running off of programs. We're not making choices. We think we're making choices and everything, but it's just routines and regular behaviors and just going along with the crowd and just, doing what's acceptable. So we're not even conscious. Over here, there's no consciousness. We're literally just reacting. And by reacting, the only way you can react, you have to have a program to go off of to react. So it's just accepting that you're a mind slave. Anything thinking outside of that is called a mental disorder nowadays. And the only way you can have a disorder is you have to have some kind of order. And the reason that they label it a mental disorder is because you refuse to follow their orders. You refuse to live in their box. You refuse to live within that confines of that, the thought police, right? Anything else I'm recognizing and accepting? I think that's it. I think I'll leave it at that for right now. Because like I said, the biggest thing for recognition and acceptance, because all these little things like, coming to terms with how the schooling, education, indoctrination system is all, was all made to keep you enslaved and program you and indoctrinate you, and then understanding that all your sports is rigged, all your entertainment is there to mock your abuse, all the news cycle is there to propagandize and skew information to get you to make decisions based on what they're telling you to. Everything in the grocery store has been thoroughly researched for colors, textures, etc., over decades upon decades to make it highly addictive. And that kind of stuff is easy to accept once you figure this out. Once you are willing to accept this and realize this, then you can start seeing the game that's being played, and you can recognize and accept the manipulation as it comes to you. And that will come with your healing as you're learning to trust yourself and take your time, focus your time and attention and energy on yourself, and what you know and what you have found through your own experiences, instead of letting yourself be gaslit by these false authority figures. All right, guys, take care of yourselves. Nobody else will.